gonna die. Go too fast. I'm taking 3.
I'm going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your 2?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we do have 2 battles. The first battle, you can see we're queued up in the old Dunkerque today on Tears of the Desert, and then we're going to move into the Scharnhorst for the second half of the video. Now, before we do get too close and start talking about the Dunkerque here, I do want to briefly talk about the Dunkirk. Some of you have asked if I was going to do a review of the Dunkirk, and I had responded that yes, I definitely would. Unfortunately, I am poor, so I cannot afford the Dunkirk, which sucks, I know. But anyway, I thought I'd give the Dunkirk a few mentions because I've seen a lot of, obviously, you know, I knew I wasn't going to get the Dunkirk for a little while now, so I've been, you know, looking at other videos and talking to some friends of mine in the clan who have the Dunkirk and whatnot. And from my observations, I have to say that the Dunkirk at Tier 6 is a pretty damn decent battleship. Now, that being said, it is very hard to play. You need to learn how to play her, and it takes some time to learn. So, it appears as though a lot of the reviews that have been done on the Dunkirk are from individuals who don't seem to have played the Dunkirk very much at all. It seems as though these individuals just simply played a few battles in it, put up a video about how much they hate it, there you go, Dunkirk doesn't do very well in the sales department. But I wanted to, if I would have actually been able to purchase the Dunkirk, I would have actually went into a lot more detail surrounding this, but these are just my observations. So what I will say about the Dunkirk is simply, she is a great battleship, fantastic battleship at Tier 6. She's a different battleship. If you play her like the typical battleship, you will hate it, because you will do very poorly. However, if you, actually attempt to play it differently and to learn the ship, you should find that she is a pretty decent little battleship at Tier 6. So that's all I'm going to say about the Dunkirk, unfortunately. I have no video of it, and I'm too poor to buy her, so that's the Dunkirk review. Sorry. Anyway, going into the Tier 9, the Donkey. So the second time we've seen her on the channel here, and I've been getting used to her. It's taking me a little while, because I have to go back to cruiser mentality of being citadeled from any angle by any ship at any distance. That is what you have to deal with when you are in the Donkey. You have, I think it's 10 to 100 millimeters of armor. So the thickest armor you have is 100 millimeters on this thing. So it can get fairly frustrating when you load into a battle, and this is a Tier 9 ship, so you are going to be seeing Tier 10 vessels on a regular basis, and specifically Yamatos and Montanas. If you are unfortunate enough to get spotted, and you are within their range, like 22 kilometers away or something like that, they can definitely citadel you. If you're not paying attention, you think they'll never make the shot, and then the shell comes in, lands somewhere where you thought that just wasn't possible, and then citadels you and kills you. These are the realities of playing in the Dimitri here. Just the way it goes. Now, I'm fairly used to it. I mean, again, I've been playing Cruiser since the game began here, and it's kind of like going back to the Königsberg or the Nuremberg, or I don't want to say it, but I am going to say it because I know a little anger people, but the Pensacola. You just don't have the armor to take any hits whatsoever. If it's a cruiser or a battleship that you are facing down against, you need to run. You just need to run. It's the way it works. So in Tears of the Desert, I figured that this was just going to be a shit show. I had played a few battles in the Donskoi here, and I haven't done very well. And I thought that this was going to be another similar battle to that, and that I would just get taken out fairly early. But luckily, my team is actually a really great team. These people knew what they were doing clearly, and you can see that we have managed to cap the A cap zone taking our time, right? We're not just rushing off and trying to get C. We're not rushing off and trying to get B. We're going to group up a little here, then push into B. I really also enjoyed that those who spawned to the north had the sense to come down and help us out down here with A. Now, again, we did also discuss it on in some of the videos. I think it was our last learning from a mistake video, and actually Sir Gods put up a great comment in that in these types of maps, and this is one of them, we were talking about trap in that example, the B cap zone in the center is a trap. Basically is a trap, right? You can't we saw even in this replay, we saw, you know, how quickly the destroyers, the enemy destroyers who are in that B cap, how quickly they came under fire. Even this Miyoko, who isn't in B totally, but is definitely on the outskirts of B, once you get into the center part of this map here, trap. You do not want to find yourself in the center of this map at the beginning of the battle. Nor do you want to do it if you're in a cruiser. Again, I think the only ships who should be in the middle are destroyers, especially this early on. As the game progresses, obviously, and ships get taken out, and you have less and less to worry about as the game progresses on, then yeah, it's obviously a viable strategy. But right at the beginning, like this Miyoko, no. Wrong maneuver. And where I was going with all that was, it's nice to see that the enemies did come down and help us with the A cap zone. To bring it back to Sir God's comment, because B is a trap, it does also make sense for the team to split up right and take A and C. If you're going to follow this strategy, though, it is a little tricky, so you do have to make sure that you see it through. Otherwise, it can quickly fall apart. In our case, not so much of a big deal. I feel really guilty playing in this ship. The reason why I feel so guilty playing in this ship is because I generally have to stay further back than I would like. I'm sure by now, watching my videos, you guys know that I do like to play fairly aggressively in my games, and it is counterintuitive for me to constantly thinking about how close I am to the enemies and trying to open up that distance. Usually I'm trying to close the distance, right? Working with cover to get as close as I can to get that crazy shot off, but not in this thing. So we have 8-kilometer torpedoes, as we discussed before. I'm going to launch off those torpedoes just in case. I think they were on a Mogami, and it's in case that enemy ship anyway decides to continue forward, those torpedoes will be there to greet that person. Keep in mind, of course, that the torpedoes on the Donkey here are really, really slow, so you do need to ideally use them in ambush setups like I sort of did there with the island. We have an American Baltimore here, and I was actually playing this game with one of my friends watching, and he came over this morning. We were just chatting and drinking coffee and whatnot, playing the game, and I was mentioning to him how sad I am for these American cruiser captains. just so sad. He was asking why, and I went in and explained how, like, at this point in time in the game, the American cruisers are really the bottom of the list right now. For me anyway. I mean, it's shared by a lot of people. I mean, obviously it can be debated because there are those people who are incredibly good in American cruisers, so we can't discount those guys. But on a whole, terrible. So I was just mentioning to him how you put all this time and effort into getting all the way up here to tier 9, and you come across another tier 9 cruiser only to find out that you made the wrong choice way back when. Oh man. Anyway, firing armor piercing off into the Baltimore, not working out so well for me. Obviously the Baltimore has a really great angle on me right now, so my shots are going to come in, and if they come in too short, they'll hit the front turrets and bounce off. If they come in too long, they'll hit the rear turrets and bounce off. So it's a pretty tricky shot. So instead, switch over to my high explosive, and we'll just start pumping more high explosive into the enemy Baltimore over there. Now the high explosive, the rate of fire on this Donskoi is very, very good. We did mention it before, but always worth another mention. It is great. I have been really, really satisfied with the Russian cruisers. I did like, I was going to say starting from tier 6 and above, I did like the Kirov at tier 5, great little cruiser, but not necessarily representative of the Russian cruiser line, because the Kirov has high caliber guns that shoot relatively slowly, whereas once you get into the Budyani and above, until you get into this ship, you have smaller caliber guns, fast firing. So that's really more characteristic of the Russian cruisers. And then as you get into the tier 9 like this, you do have the same guns actually that the Kirov has. It's just you have the advantage now of having a better rate of fire, better turret traverse, just better overall, and obviously better damage potential there as well. So yeah, I really did enjoy the Russian cruiser line, and I'm actually quite excited to get the old Moskva. Another thing I was talking to Tom is his name. Another thing I was talking to Tom about was how when I was deciding on when I originally started grinding out the Russian cruiser line. Now obviously I started because the Russian cruisers came out and I wanted to go, but I went so far, I think I went to the Kirov or the Budyani, and I basically stopped and just let it be for a while, and then I decided to pick it up again. And when I did decide to pick it up again, and I went to try and look for reviews on, say, the Shores or the Chapiev, even this ship, the Kirov, there were some reviews. Budyani, there weren't many, but that's the whole point. There weren't many reviews on these damn ships because it seemed as though the Russian cruisers came out, people spent the free XP, bought their way to the Moskva. There you go. Everyone just wants to see Moskva footage, I suppose, but it could have helped me at the time. I mean, I still figured it out on my own, but would have been helpful. And at the very least, too, now, with these videos that I've been putting up, you guys will have something to reference if need be. So we can see my torpedoes continued along and actually did manage to take out the Nagato. They were not, I wasn't aiming for the Nagato, that was just pure luck. So fantastic, we took out the Nagato, excellent. We still do have the Baltimore way back over there, duking it out with a Scharnhorst. Now the Baltimore is going to defeat the Scharnhorst, sadly, but I'm not willing to actually go over there and take down the Baltimore. It just seems as though the Baltimore is out of position right now for me, and I say this because if we look at the mini-map, we notice down here at A that I do have several allies down here who actually are starting to push into B, and I really need to help out with the push into B. I'm not going to be very useful if I'm behind a mountain chasing down a lone single enemy ship, even though there are 2 enemy ships remaining, the Baltimore, and there's a destroyer out there that's hiding. I still didn't think it was a good move to do, and again, this is coming back to the fact that I am in the Dunkerque, right? If this Baltimore decides to start firing armor piercing at me, the closer and closer I get, the greater and greater chance there is that Baltimore will citadel me and kill me. Hands down. I mean, maybe one nice full salvo of armor penetration will probably get about 2 citadels on me, probably take me down right now as I am, so didn't want to chase down this player, wasn't feeling that, so decided just to continue along and help get into B. I mean, at the very least, with the 1 enemy ship remaining, we can get into B, maybe I can help cap it, gain a few more points here, which of course is going to help out, just finally unlock some of the modules here for the Donskoi. There we go. Baltimore's gone, fantastic, managed to finish them off. We only have the enemy destroyer remaining. Not 100% sure where the enemy destroyer is, but we do notice that I am spotted. So, start thinking to myself, if I were the last enemy destroyer, where would I be? And I know that the enemy destroyer is somewhere within my radii, right? I know that because I'm spotted. So we need to think, it's on the mini-map, you guys know the answer to this one, where would the lone enemy destroyer go? And if we take a look at the mini-map, we can see something all off by itself that is known for launching planes. Yes, enemy aircraft carrier. That is where the enemy destroyer is heading. And it is with that realization that I decide, yeah, we need to turn around. Also coupled with the fact that the enemy destroyer popped up on the mini-map there. Yeah. I could set it up and say, oh no, this was planned. Wasn't planned. No idea. All I knew was that he was around me, right? And as soon as the enemy destroyer popped up, and I look back and I see the enemy aircraft carrier, bam, no, yeah, automatically I knew that's exactly where he was going, right? Should have pieced that one together. But oh well, we've got an enemy Fletcher here, and we have my allied aircraft carrier. So obviously the whole objective here is going to be save the aircraft carrier. I would rather not lose the aircraft carrier. Number of reasons for this, mostly I just don't want to have another allied ship die. We did pretty good this game. If the rest of us can manage to stay alive, it'll be that much better. We can see that the enemy Fletcher is coming under attack, pretty heavy attack from myself and the enemy aircraft carrier, right? Dive bombers, torpedo bombers coming in, plus my high explosive shells coming in as well. And if pretty much have the enemy Fletcher ranged out right now so that I can almost get every shot landing onto the enemy Fletcher and doing a bit of damage. So we can see we just took out the steering. We know that the Fletcher doesn't have repair right now because we can see that the enemy Fletcher is in fact burning. I had to look twice because I wanted to make sure that his engines weren't out. There we go. Engines are now out on the Fletcher, so now we know the Fletcher is going to be slowing down, so we can give it less of a lead, right? We're doing a pretty good job here on attempting to kill the Fletcher. That wasn't so great of a shot, but if we take a look, we can see that the Allied aircraft carrier, the Allied Lexington, is still going, so we still have a chance to save our teammate here. We have a few more shots going in. Those look really good. Enemy destroyer is on fire. There we go. Ally gets the kill. Battle is over. Victory is ours. Fantastic. I did really enjoy this battle, and I am enjoying the ship itself. But, you know, much like I mentioned at the beginning of the battle with the Dunkirk and how the Dunkirk is so different than most other battleships, in fact, all other battleships, this cruiser is similar. But it does have its own little quirks and idiosyncrasies. Like, for example, the rudder shift time, it cannot turn, which really does go play against you when you're trying to limit your broadsides that you're presenting to people. Alright, so moving out of the Tier 9 Russian cruiser and moving into the Scharnhorst. Sorry. Damn, this thing is amazing. I'm just so in love with it. It is so good. At least right now, as we have it in the game. Gotta say that, because of course, the ship itself could always be tweaked in later patches and whatnot, right? If it's deemed that it is just too overpowered, which I really hope it doesn't. But it is amazing. She looks fantastic. I mean, Wargaming did put out that video on the Scharnhorst talking about how she really does take, battleship and cruiser aspects and just throws it into one ship that has tendencies towards both. The one negative thing that I can think about on this ship is the AA. I'd be hard pressed to think about anything else. Rudder shift time is good. The guns are fantastic as long as you know how to work them. They are fantastic. Speed is great. Maneuverability is fantastic. You've got some good armor on the ship. Great range. So it's really hard for me anyway, to pick anything out on the Scharnhorst that I don't like. It is phenomenal. Just phenomenal. So we're on Estuary. And I'm going to do my typical play here, especially considering I spawned over here on the east side. I am going to come over here to the east and make sure that any enemy ships that do come over here, at least I'm going to hopefully be able to engage them. If we do take a look at the minimap and we see sort of how the team is spreading out initially, it does look as though most of my allies are heading over to the west. And this, in fact, is true. Most of the allies will head over to the west, and then what we are going to have to do over here on the east is provide our defense, right? Basically just stall the enemy as long as we can in hopes that our team gets down in there and manages to maybe cap out the enemy base or something to that effect, right? That's what we're hoping for. We have a number of enemy destroyers in this battle. In any other battleship, this might be a concern. However, maybe not any. I don't really fear battleships in my turrets either, but in this thing, I have no fear of destroyers. No fear of destroyers whatsoever. If they do come close, that's fine. I've got some fantastic secondary armament that'll take you down. I've got fast rate of fire. I've got great turret traverse, and I even have torpedoes if I need them. So not afraid of enemy destroyers. But what I was concerned about were the other allied battleships I have on my team, right? They obviously don't have the benefit of being a Scharnhorst. Well, not all of them, because there are some other Scharnhorsts here. But those guys, they may have a more difficult time attempting to deal with the enemy destroyers, so it'll be important for us to target the enemy destroyers and try and take them out if we can. I know I'm shooting at an enemy turrets right now, and that I do in fact have an enemy destroyer in my sights that I could be firing at, but the enemy destroyer is sailing away from us, not giving me that great of an opportunity, and being a little greedy, I decided to shoot at the enemy turret so that I could start racking up some damage here. So that's the rationale behind that. But I am keeping the destroyers in mind, right? If I do have a clean open shot on one, I'm definitely going to take it, hands down. We can see some other enemy ships here as well popping up on the minimap, and we'll note that as far as what we see, it does look as though there are a few enemies who are actually coming over here to the east side, which is fantastic because it really opens up the door for those on the west to just push right in, you know, take down any enemy ships in their path and get in there and start capping out the base. And the whole time while they are doing that, it's up to us over here on the east to play the defense. In my mind, I just sort of popped up like a rolling defense, that image. And what I mean by this is, you know, in ships, you're really not able to just sort of draw a line in the water and say you shall not cross, right? It doesn't work that way. It's pardon the pun, it's fluid. Things are going to be moving around. So a rolling defense is essentially you're trying to get out as close to the enemy as you possibly can while remaining defensive, right? And then you're pushing back from the enemy. The enemy will continue to push forward, and you essentially both of you will be working your way up one side of the map, whether it be east or west or north or south, depending on the map itself. But you'll essentially be working your way up, right? The whole time you have a few allied ships providing the defense versus a larger number of enemy ships. And that's what I mean by sort of a rolling defense. If I'm calling it wrong or if it's something stupid and I'm just not thinking of the phrase, please correct me. But yeah, that's sort of what I'm trying to establish here in this situation. Because I mean, if we do look at the enemy ships, there's no way. I mean, if I were just to drive forward carelessly, trying to get in there like 10 kilometers under to these guys, I'm going to get taken out. It is going to happen very fast, and it's not going to amount to anything for anyone. It won't amount to anything for me, and it won't amount to anything for the team. So it's really important that you do have your head on your shoulders when you get yourself into these games. If you have the desire to actually win and do well, you do need to think about these things, just to make sure that, you know, at every sort of step that you are doing the best thing, at least that you feel you should be doing at that time. Because I mean, anyone can tell you go do this and do that and that'll ensure your victory. It doesn't work that way in this game. It just doesn't. A lot of it does come down to instinct, and a lot of your skill for the game will come from actually playing the game a lot. But that being said, you know, through YouTube channels and videos like mine, you can take little tidbits out of it, and hopefully that's going to speed up the process for you. Because at the end of the day, it's up to you to figure out how to captain your own ship, right? Well, I can give you all the comments in the world, but if it's if you don't have those basics, it's just not going to work. We do see an enemy Scharnhorst quickly off there on the port side. Put a few shots into him, high explosive, did a bit of damage, almost killed him. We're going to try and get some more shots into the player here. Hopefully I'm going to actually be able to take him out, maybe get myself a kill. So far this battle, because we are playing the defense, I haven't actually amounted a whole lot of damage dealt, right? About 18,000 damage so far. With the Scharnhorst gone, we're about 21,000. So not a whole lot of damage thus far, but it will pick up. And again, bringing it back to hit point conservation, staying alive, getting good results. I'll just point it out. That was a naked Kutsov. There he is again. No idea what was going through that player's mind. But anyway, as long as you can stay, the longer you stay alive in a battle, the more damage potential you have. So if you're staying alive longer in battle, you have a greater chance to do more damage. The more damage you do, the better you do. So it all ties into one here, if you haven't figured that one out yet. And it's just important to bring the elements together, right? And then that is what's going to result in good games for you. But again, not going to happen all the time. Random situations here, right? So we always have the possibility of getting one of those teams that just folds instantly and you die. So nothing we can do about that. Anyway, I am moving a little far away from the enemies at this point in time, and I'm taking a look and at the minimap, and I note that my team is now capping the enemy base. So this might be a good opportunity for me to sort of play out, or hang out back here and see what the enemy does. Because in these situations, one of two things will happen and in the situation being you're capping the enemy base early. The enemy is either all going to turn around and just lemming train right back into their base and try and defend it and prevent the capping, or they're just going to lemming train as quick as they possibly can into your cap to try and cap yours faster than you can cap theirs. That's usually the outcome, or usually what will happen. In this case, if we look at the minimap once again, we can see that the enemy ships are turning around. They're turning around, heading back for their base. We've already got half the base captured, so fantastic. This is excellent. Now we have a choice ourselves. Are we going to push through the middle of the map? Because we can. This is estuary. We have the channels. It won't take any time at all for us to get there. Do we push through there and join up with our allies, try and cap out the base? Or do we circle in behind the enemies and harass them from the rear? I'm going to harass them from the rear, obviously. Now, two reasons. It's hilarious is the first reason. Second reason, none of these enemies have their guns trained on me. All of these enemies are more concerned about my allies in the base than the Scharnhorst, who is quickly coming up behind them and continuously setting them on fire. They're more concerned about the enemies, or about my allies in their base, than they are about me. So it works out really, really well. And it's, this situation too that is going to allow for the damage that, we're about to accrue here in this short bit of time before the battle actually ends. We can see a number of enemy ships. We've got a Tirpitz, we've got a Scharnhorst, we saw the New Orleans, we see another cruiser and battleship out there as well, so we know that the enemies, for the most part, all of them are actually going to be down here, and we do need to try and just crush them. We have the enemy Hatsuharu pushing through the middle here. I thought I was going to have to turn back and do something about this, which then meant that I would have pushed through the center of the map, but luckily and thankfully I do have two allied ships nearby. One of them is also a Scharnhorst, so I know that the enemy destroyer is going down. In fact, you can see my shots went in, set the player on fire, and those other Scharnhorsts there are actually going to be engaging him with secondary battery to take him down. So no concern there. We'll continue on. I was pretty concerned about the enemy Mahan that I had in front of me there earlier in the battle, but as we see, the enemy Mahan is actually in the enemy base now as well. So again, don't have to worry about the smoke here in front of me, don't have to worry about getting ambushed as I cross over the channel. Just drive straight and just keep firing the guns once I do have firing solutions on the enemy. We can see a Tirpitz over there. That Tirpitz was also naked. Again, no idea. But anyway, another Tirpitz here. Now this is the Tirpitz that I'm going to decide to focus on first, and it's because this Tirpitz is the closest enemy ship to the rest of my allies. So my allies are all focusing this player, so if I can help take down the player right by setting fires and stuff like that, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I don't have any shots on that player anymore, so we'll just switch over here to the naked Tirpitz, get a few shots off on that player, see if we can't set a fire or two, and just start getting some damage going here, right? We can see my damage start racking up. This obviously is because of the fire that I have set on the enemy Tirpitz. We get another fire on the naked Tirpitz over there as well. We do see enemy destroyers, the Mahan, coming back for more. So I was very glad that I actually noticed this player because, he's in real close. So we'll just let him cross the little mountain here. We'll put a full broadside into him. We've already got him selected for our secondaries. Our secondaries are going to open up. You can see my allies all over it as well, right? And it quickly is going to be over for this enemy Mahan here. There we go. Enemy Mahan is gone. I was concerned about the torpedoes, and then I wasn't. Fantastic. We also noticed I took some shots there from the port side. This is from an enemy battleship who decides that the best position for him to be in to provide any sort of defense to his base is on the extreme east side, riding the line. So we'll let that player be over there. I've got no qualms about that. That player wants to take himself out of the battle, sure, no problem. We're switching over to the original Tirpitz that we fired on upon earlier, right? This Tirpitz is still alive. You can see again, though, being engaged by a lot of my allies here in Cap. My allies are no longer capping the enemy base. You can see that some of them actually did retreat, some of them got taken out. So we do need to keep this in mind here as well, because if, again, consulting the minimap, we see that I am still coming up behind the enemy, but the enemies don't have a lot of my allies in front of them anymore to fire at, right? So need to keep these things in mind. We see 3 enemy ships behind their base providing some sort of defense, I'm sure, but I'm not going to have any of this. So we see the enemy Tirpitz, there's another Scharnhorst over there, and then of course we have the New Orleans. Now the Scharnhorst is on fire. I thought it was the Tirpitz that was on fire, so I put my shots into the Tirpitz thinking that I was going to set another fire. I do, but I wanted those shots to go to the Scharnhorst, get that Scharnhorst on fire stem to stern. Anyway, decide we're going to continue to focus on the old Tirpitz here. You can see that my team, who did duck out of the enemy base, is actually making their way in and behind me now, and we'll also notice that one of my friendly destroyers is in the enemy base, starting to recap that as well. Only 4 enemy ships remain. We've got the 3 that are in front of us, and then of course we have that crafty battleship player over there on the east, and well, there goes the enemy player on the east. Don't have to worry about that guy anymore. Enemy Tirpitz. I wanted to take this player down at about 73,000 damage. It's decent. I really did, though, want to get over 100,000. Personally, if I'm in, like, tier... well, maybe tier 7. I guess I'll say tier 7. Usually tier 8. But if I'm in tier 7 and above, in a match, I want to do at least 100,000 damage. That's my goal. Do at least 100,000 damage. If I can manage that, I don't care what the outcome is. Did my job. It's fine. We can see that the enemies are finally starting to fire at me. This whole time I've been behind them, and they're only now firing at me, so that was pretty good as well. We can see even the shots coming in from the Tirpitz aren't too effective. Again, you do need to keep in mind the armor on the Scharnhorst is not too shabby at all. Obviously, presenting broadsides is still something you do want to avoid, especially if you're cruising up next to a larger battleship. That battleship will destroy you, but keep in mind, just like I did, you can definitely time your turn in between shots from the enemy battleships because their reload is so bloody long. We have torpedoes on the way for the enemy Tirpitz, and there we go. Enemy Tirpitz is gone. Fantastic. This whole battle I've been calling it a Tirpitz, but it just suddenly dawned on me that that might be a Bismarck. I'm sorry. Whatever. Put some armor-piercing shots into the enemy New Orleans. Not too bad. Get ourselves a nice citadel. I am going to switch back over to the high explosive, though, once I'm done with the armor-piercing here. I do like the armor-piercing on the Scharnhorst. It is actually very amazing. Very amazing at close range, though. At when you do get into further distances, it does become more of a toss-up as to whether or not you're actually going to get a citadel on the player. That's why you see Scharnhorst captains firing HE at targets at distance, because the HE has the better damage potential than the AP on this ship. We do see the last enemy Scharnhorst over there. We just need to take the player down. No time left, though. We do win. Cap out the enemy base. Fantastic. Not too shabby at all. And if I recall correctly, I did just barely breach the 100,000 damage mark, so that's pretty good. 105,000, 398,000 credits, which isn't too bad at all. Did get some torpedo hits, which is always great. We've got some new events going on, I suppose, so yeah, great. I'm gonna get some things from that. Fantastic. Finished second overall in the team again, so that is great. You know, top 3, I'm cool with that. Even though, I mean, there are always those battles, right, that are just so hard fought and you can't believe you survived and you finish middle of the pack and you're just so happy with yourselves. Yeah, those are always good battles as well. 332,000 credits is what I end up walking away with, which is fantastic because I am saving for the modules on the Donkey and the Bayern. Anyway, that is today's video. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. You know, as always, leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. Love reading those and responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.